The NFC has been absolutely dominated over the past 3 years by the three powerhouses of the San Francisco 49ers, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Philadelphia Eagles. We are now on the absolute collapse of the NFC powerhouses, and this may be the last year that all three of these teams are actually competitive. The 49ers have been an absolutely dominant team under Kyle Shanahan, making the NFC Championship in 4 of the last 5 seasons and having 2 Super Bowl appearances. Currently, the 49ers are considered one of the most loaded rosters in football, and you could even make a case that they are the best team in football despite their lack of Super Bowl success. Now, the Dallas Cowboys are in a unique situation where they have an absolutely stacked roster on both sides of the ball and can win on both sides of the ball. And over the last few seasons, the Dallas Cowboys have won a ton until they make it to the playoffs and see their normal playoff regression. The Cowboys have won their division in 2 of the last 3 years, finishing with a 12-5 record in both of their division-winning seasons. Both Dallas and Philadelphia currently have a win total line set at 10.5, giving them identical odds to win their division according to the Vegas odds, showing that this could be a very interesting season. But Philadelphia is definitely one of the most interesting teams in the Power 3, as they've won the NFC East in 2 of the last 5 seasons and had 1 Super Bowl appearance where they lost to the Chiefs. Last year, they started off hot with a 10-2 record before imploding and finishing 11-6 with their only win coming against a horrible New York Giants team. And spoiler alert, they also lost to that exact same team. Now, many fans and analysts believe that the Eagles have fixed their problems by adding to their secondary and changing the coaching staff, but this may not actually be the case. In fact, all these 3 teams could actually be in their last year of greatness until we see a complete and utter collapse of the NFC powerhouses. With that collapse, we'll see new teams emerge in the NFC as the powerhouses like the Lions and the Packers. Now let's start it off with the 49ers. The Vegas odds have the 49ers line set at 10.5 wins this season as potential Super Bowl contenders again, with the second highest odds to win it all. Now, while the 49ers do have a pretty good looking roster, when you actually go look at the contracts, if you were a 49ers fan, this is terrifying. Tre'Davious Ward is one of the many players the 49ers need to offer a new contract to this season or deal with a $13 million cap hit and see the star cornerback enter free agency. They also have to make a decision about Dre Greenlaw, whose contract is expiring this season after being labeled as the number 79 player in the league. Now, the obvious player who has been in the news is star wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, who has been very clear about wanting to make a potential team change. Now, if Aiyuk leaves, the 49ers will face a $14 million cap hit and lose their best wide receiver. But this would impact the 49ers way more than just their receiving core. Brock Purdy, aka Mr. Irrelevant, has earned his respect in the league with his passing stats and team leadership, but that could go to blow up if they lose Brandon Aiyuk. Now, Aiyuk is clearly Brock Purdy's go-to guy and is a huge component to allowing Brock Purdy to be great and not the game manager title that he's been given by the haters. If Aiyuk does leave in a trade or in free agency, I'm afraid we may see a massive step back by the quarterback Brock Purdy, which would affect the entire team and their greatness. Now, this problem goes even deeper when you consider the fact that Brock Purdy is currently pushing for the 49ers to give him a new contract. Now, according to ESPN, this contract could look like a 5-year, $325 million contract, which would be the absolute end of the 49ers' greatness. But if you think that's bad, just wait until you hear about the Dallas Cowboys contract situation. The Dallas Cowboys have had a consistently dominant team the past 3 years on both sides of the ball, but most of their threat comes from their 3 primary stars and quarterback Dak Prescott, wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, and linebacker Micah Parsons. But you also have some solid players like Zach Martin and Osa Odigizua who also need to be paid. Now, the Cowboys currently have only $12 million in cap space and have to pay Dak Prescott upwards of $180 million for a 3-year deal. They also have to pay CeeDee Lamb close to $35 million a year after Justin Jefferson just reset the wide receiver market. And to top it all off, they also need to pay Micah Parsons close to $32 million either this year or next year if they want to keep him around. Now, the chance that the Cowboys can actually pay all 3 of these guys is, well, near impossible. This would take up an insane amount of their cap room and put them in a Moneyball situation where their other offensive and defensive weapons would have to be a lot worse than they are now. The most realistic scenario is that one of the 3-star players may have to enter free agency and find a new team, or would have to take a pay cut, which seems even more unlikely. Now, the Cowboys are playing on borrowed time right now, and if they don't make a Super Bowl push this season, there's a chance that they won't even sniff the championship for another decade. Well, or at least until Jerry Jones is gone. And now as for the most controversial one, the Eagles. After imploding last season and having new coaching, people may tell you that everything is fine and everything is back to being sunshines and rainbows. But the reality of the situation is that there is still major disagreements between ownership, coaching, and players. Jalen Hurts has been asked several times about head coach Nick Sirianni and given opportunity to defend him, but instead brushes over the questions and reluctantly gives us a political answer. We all know that Nick Sirianni is on the hot seat, and if we see the Eagles start off the way that they ended last year, this could very quickly see a coaching change. The Eagles made the offseason move to bring in Kellen Moore as the play caller, but Moore has struggled over the past few jobs he's had in the NFL after being labeled as an offensive genius. Now this team is practically a group of frustrated players being coached by a bunch of guys who are looking to resurrect their careers and stay in the league. Now the bright side for the Eagles is that they are fine contractually with all their players and aren't in the same money situation as the other two teams. They've locked down their potential franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown got paid, Devonta Smith got paid, and in general have most of their team for at least 2 to 3 more years. Last season their biggest weakness was one of the league's worst secondaries, which the team attempted to strengthen through the draft, but we will have to wait and see how their development pans out. Now overall, the NFC is on the verge of an absolute collapse, and we can see the entire league change right before our eyes. Now with young teams like the Lions in the mix, it is very possible that all 3 teams will be forced out of relevance as they try to crawl back to being top teams through free agency and drafting. Do you think that any of these teams will collapse this season? Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe for more NFL content to come.